initial idea was let's build something that could help several teams in Web3 protocols to do their work more efficiently, to provide them seamless support across different communicational channels and so on. So we built this product, we start generating revenue, but then we see this much bigger scale idea that our infrastructure can be used by anyone to build whatever they want to empower the day-to-day work and be kind of a superhuman who can do much more with less resources and by saving more time. If you're serving your customers and customers are paying money, you don't want to have a situation when each second or third response is a hallucination or like it would direct your customers in the wrong direction, because each lost customer is like your real money.
Today we have the pleasure to interview Nick. So thank you so much for joining the podcast. I know that you're from Ukraine originally and you were a tech consultant and you switched into Web3 space later on because you were an early retail investor. So could you just tell me a bit more about your journey from Web2 to Web3, please?
Yeah, of course. First of all, thanks for inviting. It's a pleasure to join and chat with you. From my background, I started in IT consulting. I was doing product management roles mostly on projects focused on IoT or on AI space products. And initially, it was like pretty excited. It didn't call any Gen AI or any other things, but it's like still a lot of experience because I used to manage like 18, 20 people teams, product cross-functional teams. It's like pretty cool stuff with big budgets. And it was a cool experience for me personally, where I grow up as an expert and also learn a lot of things that we are using right now by building Assisterr. Then I switched to Web3 space where I was also like managing the same things, like building teams, running different products, open source teams, and so on. And in a core, it was still like my interest, my personal curiosity about Web3 space, because I started investing my personal money. And initially, you know how it happened. Initially, you have this like big idea that like tomorrow you're gonna become and wake up millionaire. Then maybe you become it, but then you have this like pushback when you're losing something or like all your investment or whatever. So I passed this experience in 2017, 2018 massively. So it's like 3 cycles back. Then in 2020, 2021, I was like more conservative. And right now I'm even more conservative because I think that like real people who are in space, it's like those people who are building something, who understand how everything works, who understand the value of technology, not only about this like pump dump stuff and so on. And in between of this experience, in 2022, I was also co-founder of AI startup, which I was initially joined as a CPO. I was responsible for establishing R&D team. But then later I was responsible for scaling the startups, organizing sales, opening office in US and so on. And with this experience, I figure out that AI technology can be used to automate different roles, but not to replace people, but empower people. And that's what we're doing right now with Assisterr as well. So initial idea was like, let's build something that could help DevRel teams in Web3 protocols to do their work more efficiently, to process to support your community, to support developers who want to build something, to provide them seamless support across different communicational channels and so on. So we build this product as a proof of concept. We start generating revenue, but then we see this much bigger scale idea that our infrastructure can be used by anyone to build whatever they want to empower their day-to-day work, to automate portion of their work and be kind of a superhuman or to be like basically a superhuman who can do much more with less resources and by saving more time.
Before we go any deeper, could I just take a step back and dive a bit deeper into the transition from you selling your first business to you studying in Cambridge? Because before the interview, you were telling me that you're currently based in Cambridge. So I'm really interested in that transition and how the skills and knowledge that you gained during your education and you went back to uni comparatively later on in your life. So just tell me a bit more about it and how this experience has helped you as a founder.
Yeah. So it's actually a very cool experience when you in your early 30s you have ability to come back to student life, especially if it's like top uni, very rich history, very cool people, like a lot of Nobel prizes and so on. So for me, it was my personal challenge because I from the young years when I'm Ukrainian, so it's like I was born in quite small city in west part of Ukraine. And for me, starting somewhere in this like top uni, it was like a big dreams. It was never like potentially could happen in my life. So as soon as I got to offer a grant actually from National Bank of Ukraine and Cambridge Uni to study here. I was super excited. I moved here with my family. I spent like almost a year studying, and the topic of education was basically how to rebuild financial system of Ukraine post-war by using innovative instruments such as crypto and NFTs. So it's like it's very in line with my personal interests, and also it was very like patriotic way to me also to think and contribute to the program that's going to be used by National Bank of Ukraine and also our financial guys on a country level. Later on, I also met here Professor Andriy Kirilenko, who is originally he has also Ukrainian roots, but we actually run with him like on a weekly basis here in Cambridge, and he gives me a lot of advice about like how to think about different financial instruments, how to think about like different processes, help to structure me some ideas, provide a lot of feedback. So it was very high quality and very valuable communication and time spent in Cambridge. And also, it's like community around yourself. So it's like everyone is super open. It's remind me to crypto actually, because like here in uni and educational direction, there is no direct competition like commercial competition. So people are very open to contribute to your idea, to provide you feedback, to link you and connect with different people. Basically, everything what we have in crypto, but with like more financial direction, that's I got in Cambridge as well. Because if you go into any established domain, any established vertical, you would have a problem with this finding these social lifts. Because like if you are in bank sector, or if you are in some like established vertical, if you will try to pass and get some fast intros, get some fast promotion, start working on something innovative, everyone would be asking like who you are, like show me like some big evidence that you are able to do it. Here with education and with many other things, like in crypto we don't have it. Like if you want to do something, you can just jump to the topic, educate yourself, meet with people, run this podcast, like meet with founders, and then you can have a lot of opportunities and a lot of doors would be open for you. So I get it from Cambridge a lot, but also I got it to because of the crypto, because I'm active in the space, I'm visiting a lot of events, I'm presenting, I'm sharing ideas. We are applying for many hackathons, we won a lot of hackathons. So it's just like organically very very similar vibes that I got from uni community, which I like actually in crypto space as well.
Could you tell me a bit more about your NFT thesis? Because a lot of people have been arguing that NFTs are dead, especially in this cycle. I think that there is a lot of utility behind NFTs, and they will be utilized by companies to build their communities. But how can we use them as a financial instrument? That's really interesting narrative that have not been necessarily exposed to.
With NFT, it's quite complicated because by the end of the day, where we see a lot of utility, let's say, from NFTs, is basically loyalty programs, any type of loyalty programs where you have some community who is loyal to brand. And if you think about brand, it could be anything. It can be like some clothes brand, but it also can be a government or like some, like big country, also a brand. And like there's a lot of people who interact with this brand. They have trust in this brand, and they can like the government itself can create some specific instruments linked to financial obligation, to some credit or maybe deposit stuff and so on. It's still very experimental, because if you think about should I use NFT or should I rely on stable coins or should I rely on some national crypto, like there's like more obvious way to actually go with stable coins than with NFTs. But for example, with charity programs, with donations, which was a case for Ukraine, there was a lot of demand for people all around the globe to donate and support Ukraine. And there were like a lot of projects, like, and you were not sure which is credible, which is, like something that I can trust to. And that's why we have this postmarks, like with a guy, with military guy who told like Russian warship, go fuck yourself. And like this collection could be launched as NFT, like, and I would be proud to have this NFT in my collection because I kind of share the values that Ukrainians fight for. I'm ready to support. I'm not. I'm not. I don't have any incentive to sell it, but it's very easy to implement in NFT way. And also there could be evolution in collections. There could be some different launches of this collection over the year, or maybe quarterly, or maybe some other perks for the people who collect, like 4, 5, 10 of these postmarks with different NFTs in them and so on. So it's like we were trying to think about this. So postmarks in form of NFT, it was quite interesting instrument for us, and a couple other things. By the end of the day, I think if we coming back from this like ideation stage to what we have right now with NFTs, I think many people who were investing in NFT on previous bull run, they were expecting like they actually don't understand purely what is NFT, like what to expect. They like community element of that, and hugely or heavily like for this run, these meme coins replace this partly. So people who new come into the space and they see that there is some big community around the meme, they not digging deeper to understand what is there, like is there a real community, who is in that community, who, like, what would be the output of the activity of that community. And like I think it's like more like it's get worse in terms of the output for these people who actually join in the meme community instead of joining some NFT communities, because with NFT communities there was still a lot of personality. You still can find some people, some leaders of that community, or maybe some group of people who were leading these communities. And these people actually, they are public person. You can go to the party with them, you can hang out with them, you can do some dinners, you can do some sports and many other things. So I really enjoy this NFT part. So far right now I think there should be some rebirth, but no one knows when and like in which form. I think the idea of organizing people around community with some recognizable element of that community, it's like pretty cool. And with would it be like meme stuff or would it be NFT stuff? I'm not sure. Like, like market will show us.
No, absolutely. I want to move to Assister, and I know that you have three main components, and one of them is the small language models. And you have a very good graph on your website explaining it. So I'll share my screen and you can run me through it. Funnily enough, I've never shared my screen on a podcast before, so bear with me. It's the first time, but I really like this one. So let me see. Hopefully you can see my screen now. Yes, you can.
I see. So just brief, yeah, I can go through this logic. So what we see on a high level, I see that, and like that's what we share as a team. That's where we see the market goes in the next. Will end up in a couple of next years. So we believe that future gonna be multimodal. So there would be a lot of agents, a lot of models running in parallel. So it's not going to be one single model that would be kind of AGI and it would control everything and it would be super smart brain or whatever. There would be a lot of models in parallel. Some of them would be large language models. Some of them would be small language models. Some, like, there would be still exist like search engines that you can use, kind of a Google or Yahoo or whatever else. And there would be like competition between them. And we as a users, we're going to have ability to choose what we want to rely on through our personal assistant. So this personal assistant, it could be run on edge. And that's edge, I mean like telephone, maybe laptop, some small servers. So you have your own personal agent or assistant, which should be good enough, but not too smart. Because if it's too heavy, it would be not possible to process this computation part. It would require a lot of space. It's like your phone would be warm up, like, so there would be a lot of technical expectation from your device to be able to handle it. So but by the end of the day, there is user on the left and then user he can
Sorry,
connect
before
his
we
wallet.
progress, could you
What?
just give me a definition of a small language model and large language models? I have a general idea of what they mean, but do you have, could you just elaborate on this and kind of give me the technical definition if you could?
Yeah. So by the end of the day, the definition between large language models and small language model is in an amount of data parameters that this model was trained on. And in general, there is common belief that up to 8, maybe 10 billion parameters is like small language models, while large language models can be 80 billion parameters, 100 billion parameters. So it's like much, much bigger and more. And if you think about really, really tiny and small that could be run on your device, it can be 0.2 billion parameters. So it's like it's really tiny, highly specialized. And the difference that large language model is trained on all the data from the internet. Let's say, like all books, all internet, parse pages, anything that you can find, socials, YouTube videos, whatever. You can parse all this data, train the model, and that would be a large language model. Which means, like, if you will think about what exists in the internet, there is a lot of cool things, like a lot of professional information, but also there is like a lot of people who believe that we are run by some reptiloid government, like, or there is some other crazy things that people believe in. And by the end of the day, if you will be relying on this large language model that is averagely good and bad on everything, you would be chatting with this taxi driver who is expert in politics, in sports, in anything, but by the end of the day, he's still a taxi driver. So it can be a solution, but from my experience, we were building and relying a lot on large language models for previous companies that I was running, and I'm chatting with many other companies who are doing it. There is a problem with accuracy. So these large language models, they have a lot of hallucinations, and they'll have a lot of problems with providing accurate response. And for, like, if you are running some structuring for your blog post, or maybe some brief for your article, it's okay, you can live with that. But if you're serving your community, if you're serving your customers and customers are paying money, you don't want to have a situation when each second or third response is a hallucination, or like it would direct your customers in the wrong direction, because each lost customer, it's like your real money. So with the small language models, we addressing these issues with accuracy, because with small language models, you can effectively take less parameters, but you can handle and like kind of handpick the high quality parameters and data set. And based on this data, you can train really highly skilled model for performing one single task or one single business function. Like, if the small language model is trained to do B2C marketing on China market, it would be super smart about B2C marketing on China market, but it would not create you poems. It would not create you some, like logos. It would not be able to do a lot of other things that LLMs are able to do. And that's basically how we see our brains actually work. Like, you don't have one cell that is responsible to do everything. You have like billions of cells, and like each of the cell like doing a lot of work, and they are organized in some sectors in your brain, and each sector is responsible also for different type of functions that your body can operate, and you can operate. So we believe that in the future we're going to have very similar kind of decentralized approach, where we're going to have like additional user on the left who actually has some idea or some motivation or some intention to do something. Then he has his autonomous agent or assistant, personal assistant, who has like ability to perform different tasks, split task for subtasks, and also he has a balance. And like this balance is basically your money that you inject in as a crypto to balance of this agent. You inject in him some general purpose, what he need to do, what type of operation, what type of work he need to do. And then he has kind of a small language model gateway, or like open web gateway, where he can go to the open web and find the best executor for this task or the portion of this task. Let's say you want to build some social dApp on blockchain, and your budget is, I don't know, 100 or maybe $10 per month, and you expect that there would be 10,000 people monthly. So you will give this input to the agent. He will decompose it for even more tasks, like, I don't know, 10 different tasks. This 10 different requests he will send to open to different models, and each of this model will offer some solution. So you can go to Google. Google will propose you a solution. He will redirect you to someone who actually pay to be, like promoted by ad, because that's the business model of the Google. If you will go to large language models like OpenAI, Anthropic, and others, they have different. They have a problem or limitations that all the database or like all the models have this like 6-12 months ping. So, and if you're trying to find the best solution right now, it's not doesn't make sense to ask something like, hey, give me the best solution for social dApp with 10 bags and like with this amount of people, which was relevant like 6 months ago or 12 months ago. No, you are looking for something that is relevant right now. And that's where small language models start competing between each other, and also between Google search and also between large language models, because then you're gonna have like near model, Ethereum model, Solana model, like any actually blockchain model that would like, hey, there is like tasks that I can operate and I can do for, I don't know, Solana will tell that I can do it for $1 per month, like, and I would be able to provide you the support for your social dApp. Near will say like, hey, I can do it for $2, Ethereum for $10, and then your autonomous agent, based on some scoring system, based on some logic, and based on your preferences, will choose several small language models who would be executing different parts of this task. Some will do design, some will do some hosting stuff, some will just build this dApp on chain, like payment rails and so on. So, and by the end of the day, you will get what you ask with minimum time spent and with this like AI assistants that will do a lot of work on your behalf.
Could you elaborate a bit more on like the small language models that will be executing the tasks? Would they be trained by you, or how do we get them?
Yeah. That's actually what we see as a limitation, because initially we start by training these models on our own as a team. And we are right now, we have more than 80 probably live integration with different chains, which we effectively set up by our team. And we spent for this maybe more than 1 year. So we did a lot of work, we did a lot of automations there, we did a lot of things to, like to provide high quality support and responses. But that's a limitation, because our team are experts in, like AI, DevRel, Web3, but we are not experts, like in some creative stuff. We are not expert in marketing, we are not expert in, like all types of product management, fishing, like football, sports, gaming. Like there's so many things, so many verticals that different people are experts, but we cannot cover as one centralized team. That's where we see that we're gonna be a network of community-owned small language models. So the core idea is that each community or like any person can actually launch their own small language model based on the domain expertise that they have and data sets that they have. You don't need to be super AI skilled or very skilled in Web3 space and anything else, but you need to have your data. And based on this data, you need to have some idea what type of small language model you want to create. Maybe you're writing some newsletters about crypto or maybe some other domain specific area. You can feed your data to this model, set up a small language model about your domain expertise, and after that, as soon as you publish into on our ecosystem, other people who has similar expertise, similar knowledge, they would be able to contribute data to this model, and in that way they would be sharing profits from this model. So it's not only one-time rewards that we're going to be offering, but also they're going to be having this ownership over the model, fractionalized ownership of the model, which is highly valuable, because you have long-term incentives to contribute your data instead of just giving this data to Web2 platforms, which not giving you anything in return. So that's what we're building, and that's where we see a huge role of community, because only with a high quality community, motivated, aligned community with what we are building, we can achieve this high level quality and accuracy in different zones. So we would be able to overcompete either Google or either OpenAI or either other large language models.
And how do you incentivize people to initially join the entire network and start running their small language models? And is that where like blockchain come into place as
Yeah,
in
so
the form of
that's
a
that's where
token?
yeah, that's where blockchain actually as a technology is excitedly fitting well, because blockchain have power to um, to organize and orchestrate a big amount of people in, like in a permissionless way, and also with minimum expenses, because you don't need to manage everyone, you don't need to build trust, don't need to verify users in many ways, but there is like can be a part of validation process or validation frameworks. That's a part of protocol itself. So what we did 2 months ago, effectively, so we launched our testnet where we start inviting people to register on the platform as a kind of a beta users, to start playing with models that already exist on the platform, asking questions, querying them, trying to build something. And all of this, it's already, we incentivize them with synthetic token, how we call them. And there would be like a whole logic what we're gonna be doing with the synthetic tokens, how we're gonna be exchanging them to real token, to give the ability to these users effectively participate in the ecosystem in a couple months down the line. And except that, we're also going to introduce shortly our creator incentives program, where we're going to be incentivize people specifically create models, and we will be introducing additionally like exact, like numbers, tokenomics, how model works, and many other things.
And the original plan was to go live, just mainnet in Q3 and integrate on Solana. So how's that going? Is it still the plan? But also, could you just tell me a bit more about the synthetic tokens and how they will be transferred to real tokens? Is this something that you could disclose, or you'll be talking about it later on?
Yeah. I'm gonna be providing more details later on. Is there would be like very big blog posts on this topic. You can think about like, and people who are gonna be watching us, about synthetic token as a basically point system where you can each actually actively activity on a platform will result into synthetic token collection. And this synthetic token we're gonna be exchanged for real token at some point of time, because without real token we're going to have a huge problem with data validation. And this real token is basically security mechanism for us, because if the person want to contribute data, they need to have our token. If the person want to create models, they need to have our real token. If the person want to be data validator and want to validate the quality of data sets, they also need to have our token in stake for deposited format, to prevent the spamming of the system with low quality data, or maybe just like people who are doing malicious actions just to take token rewards, and that's it. And we providing with the synthetic token, we provide in a way that anyone can collect enough token to be active participant of the ecosystem and a community without actually spending real money as soon as we will go to public.
Okay, and could you tell me a bit more about mainnet and what's the plan there? What are you planning to do?
Yeah, so we're gonna go for mainnet in Q4, because right now we believe that we focus a lot massively on a scaling team, and also we spend a little bit more time than was expected on the fundraising. So effectively, we hired. We probably announced it just last week. We hired guy from ex Google, ex Apple, ex Microsoft. So it's like it's pretty cool hire for us, and it's also very cool evidence that whatever we're making and building, it makes a lot of sense, because Apple did 1 month ago, they did announcements that they're going to be betting on the small language model as well. And there would be a presentation in a couple of weeks, a new iPhone. So I expect that they're going to spend some portion of this presentation onto disclosure how the small language model is going to be working on edge on their devices as well. So I'm super excited about this, and to like handle everything, build the operations, spend a little bit more time on a product, leveling up everything like what we have around technology. It's something that we took additional like two and a half months to spend on. And I think effectively we're going to be ready for mainnet in November, December. It depends also from like tests that we're going to be run. Meanwhile, we have already more than 350,000 registered user on a platform. So it's like it's a huge amount of people who are on a demand side. So they are already ready to use our models. They are already ready to do something with them. And what we're doing right now, we're filtering and like segmenting user base and asking them what type of use cases you want to build, what type of models you want to create, what type of agents you want to create. Based on these responses, based on these results, we actually match in demand side with supply side, because effectively we're going to be marketplace with many models that you can find, but also with many users who can like leverage this model for their specific tasks.
And you mentioned two main things, that you're expanding the team and that you've closed the fundraise. And I know that the first fundraise was 1.7 million. Could you just tell me a bit more about how big is the team, but also how are you planning to utilize the money that you've raised?
Yeah, so the team itself is 15 people at this moment of time, and we have a couple more contractors, but mainly like we're trying to build everything in house and like skill up our team to have the technology on our side. So the core expectation from the fundraise money is like to be spent on the technology itself, except that we're gonna start doing a lot of like much more activations on the marketing side somewhere in starting second half of September. And based on this, that's like a core direction for us. We're also seeing to do probably some additional QL round to get like smart QLs from the space who understand AI, who understand what we're building, and who can strategically support us in the long term. But at the same time, we have amazing angels like Nader from Eigenlayer. We have Ethan from Particle Network, who are DevRels, who already understand and who already know what is a DevRel, what type of pain points we're solving there. So we're gonna probably design some QL round around getting this DevRel from different protocols to our ecosystem, because they already can establish different use cases. They know how to work with that, and they can effectively bring us builders to the ecosystem, not just people who want to speculate.
Nice, thanks for clarifying that. And you mentioned Google, and I know that you've recently signed a partnership with them, or it's more of a like startup grant for GPUs and CPUs. So could you tell me a bit more about it? But also, I was thinking that essentially they're a direct competitor of yours, and they're just centralized version of you. So how beneficial is it for you to partner with them? But also, do you think that that aligns with your underlying objectives, and like, how do you justify that internally in the team?
Yeah, so the partnership with Google will grant us 350K over 2 years in GPU CPU, which is highly valuable because computing and ability to fine tune models, do compute, and a lot of other things is highly expensive. And we can do it directly through decentralized service providers such as IPFS, Filecoin, like Zero Gravity, Nosana, IO.net, and a couple other providers in the space. And we already have, like agreements with these guys. We already have chats. We already discussing some collaboration. But none of them can provide you a stable, ready to use solution at this point of time. So most of the teams, they are startups itself, and they like start building it maybe a year ago, maybe half year ago. So if you want to, and we are building consumer facing product, so we have infrastructure, but infrastructure we are using to actually provide consumer facing product for end users. And if we will go with this kind of experimental or R&D stage products or communities or ecosystem, we can have a lot of like pushback from community, because they would be not satisfied with the quality, with the results that we're going to be provide them. So that's the first point. It's about quality and reliability. Second point, we still into product market fit search stage. So for us, what we want to do, we want to give a lot of like we want to cover all the infrastructure for community for free, and we want to provide as much services for free as possible early on, to understand which verticals and which direction are most interesting for the ecosystem and for network in general. And if we can effectively rely and use perks from Google to like to do this initial discovery, it's totally fine. As soon as we will find 3, 5, 10, 20 verticals that performing the best, where we see that business model works, where we see that communities start generating revenue, communities start monetizing this model, we're going to be ready to switch to the decentralized service provider, or any provider that would be reasonable at that point of time. And that's basically our approach for this. So we don't try to do any decentralization just for decentralization. We're trying to build products that make sense, and all other things, like blockchain is there for, like community orchestration, and like and reward distribution, and also incentives, like storage, GPU, CPU is going to be there, like to perform its specific task, not just to do in decentralized way, because otherwise we will get a product that would be highly decentralized, but no one would to use it from the UX perspective.
Yeah, yeah, that's a fair argument to make. And we've touched upon on centralized and decentralized language models. So could you just elaborate a bit more on what are the benefits of decentralized language models and why are they so essential?
If we're talking about decentralized models, it's very important to understand like why we need decentralized models. And like from my perspective, decentralized AI in general as a direction, it's meaningful and it should be there as open source code should exist, like, and by the end of the day, open source code, it, it is like in 85-90% of any applications, like all applications that exist on the internet. I think the same we're going to have with open source and like and decentralized AI, because like there's also difference. There's open source AI, so basically there's a lot of incentives, a lot of people who are doing this open sourcely in general. There is decentralized AI where we're trying to make a lot of people who can like collect a lot of people who can contribute either compute or either data or either like something else. And we operate as a team, we operate on the data side. So we believe, and that's what we're addressing with Assisterr, is that people who are owners of the data, that should be a beneficiaries, and effectively they should get a portion of rewards from the value created by model. And we are not trying to solve the problem with training model, with GPU CPU part of the model, with many other things, but we effectively want to provide community ability to choose, do I want to be my data fitted to the model and I would not get anything, or if I want to share some personal data, some professional data, some like IP rights with specific model, I want to be sure that I would be able to monetize it. So that's what we're effectively addressing with Assisterr, and that's what should exist on the market at least. Like you can choose if you want, if you care, if you maybe you don't care. A lot of people saying that they don't care about the data, but as soon as you will tell that your data worth, like $100 per month, maybe they will change opinion. And no one offering this, and no one offering the easy UX UI where you can just log in, connect your, like some data points, connect your socials, connect your whatever mobile devices, laptops, and see how much you can earn by contributing your data to some models or data sets or whatever. And I think by the end of the day, we're going to end up with this, like very, very interesting solution where we're going to be providing this part for the community.
Yeah, and that fits very well into my next question about retrieval augmented generation model. So my understanding of it is that you enable people to share their metadata and monetize it, which is a bit different than the small language models. So could you just tell me a bit more about this part of the business? Because while I was prepping for the interview, I feel like you're offering quite a few things and they have the same underlying objective, but you provide different services. So yeah, could you tell me a bit more about this particular one?
Yeah, so retrieval, like RAG process that you mentioned, is basically the way how you can improve the quality of the model without doing fine tuning, without like retraining model itself. So with RAG, you effectively do in a vector database, then you add in embeddings from each user to the vector database, and it's already can serve and provide much better accuracy and quality than just general purpose basic model. So it's the first part. But then the question is like, as like when to do a fine tuning of the model, and which model to use as a basic at that point of time. So our approach is the next. Like initially, we offering this like vector database with the RAG process where effectively anyone can contribute some portion of the data to the vector database. But then the creator of the model or community that creates the model, they can choose like, okay, as soon as we achieve, let's say, 0.1 billion parameters in our data set, we want to fine tune, and we want to fine tune based on this small language model. So let's say Llama 2 as a basic model, small language model, then a fine tuning of this model based on the data set collected from the community. So you see, and what we're trying to achieve, we want to collect the data, provide immediate value to the community with as fast as possible. But then, as soon as you collect enough data, good enough curated data set, you can fine tune this data set based on small language model, and then you would do exactly the same. So you will know you will rely again on this small language model, but fine tune with the data sets that already collected. So the quality would be even better. Then you do in vector embeddings, and then like snowball becoming bigger, 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 and the quality and accuracy of this model become bigger. And all people, everyone who participated in the process of data contribution, data validation, they should become effectively beneficiary of the value created by this model. So if other people are reaching out this model because they know that it's created by 10 experienced, I don't know, traders, and this model is super cool with some trading strategies, these 10 people would be getting the most money from this model, and like they would be sharing profits from this model. So that's what we're trying to achieve here.
Nice. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And could you just tell me where exactly the data provenance protocol fits into that picture as well?
Yeah, so with data provenance protocol, we started building this part effectively in March, and we won the first hackathon at East Denver, autonomous agent hackathons. Then we won another one run by Binance Labs and also OKX Ventures. And the idea initial was how to effectively track who, when, and how modified the model data set. So what we are doing, instead of saving all the data on chain, we collecting the data about like this wallet from this user submitted this data. It was passed through the validation of this, like 10, 20, 50 people with other wallets. And that's how like we have the framework, how we validate it. And that's how this piece of data end up being a part of the data set behind the model. And as soon as it's done, we distribute the rewards to the people who contribute data, initial data set, because there is a competition between, I don't know, 5 people, 10 people who actually submit data, but only one piece of data actually would be fed to the model itself. And also people who validate the data, they also will get some portion of rewards. And after that, they become a co-creator of this model, of the model data set. And then each time when someone would be querying and using this model, we have two alternative approaches that we are testing right now. First approach is basically we're going to be defining from the vector databases which vectors were used to provide the user query response. And let's say if you submitted 1% of the all data that we have in the model, but this 1% was queried 50% of cases over the last week. So effectively, we would be able to track and reward you the most. Let's say the model earned $1,000, so you will get maybe 40%, maybe 30% of this $1,000 because your 1% of data was queried in 50% of times. Like so, your data is highly valuable for this model, and people are effectively querying and using it. And another alternative way how we're thinking about it is basically to give ability professional validators to take more, and other people would be able to just take the tokens on the validators, and validators would be hiring additional data contributors, data validators on their side to do like domain specific work for domain specific models and agents. So let's say marketing people, they would be feeding data to the marketing model and validating the quality, like traders to trade in analytics to like, so it depends like what type of model is there. And then whoever's were submitting the data and validates the data and also stakes the tokens on this, they would be sharing some portion of the profits. And it could be, I don't know, 80% of the price pool, or it's going to be 50%. So it's like we're still figuring out. I think mid-September we will introduce the tokenomics itself, and there would be a lot of clarity, because it's like work in progress. It's like literally that's like a part of our day-to-day work, what we're figuring out right now.
Yeah, and could you just elaborate on your business model? Because you would essentially take a percentage of the entire amount. What's the plan? Like, how much are you planning to take, and would that be sufficient to essentially maintain the business but also grow it? Because, yeah, you essentially want to grow.
So the plan is we're gonna charge between 10-20%. So it's like we're trying to figure out which percentage from the total revenue would be reasonable for us. But instead, like in return, we're gonna be providing all end-to-end infrastructure for launching models, for doing fine-tuning, to launch agents itself connected to this model, to do a lot of other things on a platform. And I think it should be fine. We're still going to be doing a lot of calculation to understand different use cases, different monetization strategy with different creators. But from our side, I think we will go with this like classical marketplace model instead of going to case by case offerings. For community itself, we're still figuring out how to build a billing strategy, because billing strategies, there could be different options. So we can potentially charge per, I don't know, 1,000 queries, or we can charge per model per week or per month or per day, or we can charge for a pack of models in one vertical. Let's say you want to query, or you are doing some like extensive research about some like domain area, so you can buy kind of a subscription, and you would be paying for all access to all vertical. But then we're going to be splitting on the background the revenue, like the payment between these models who participated into providing the value to you. But yeah, like by the end of the day, the logic is to build this kind of meritocracy approach where the most powerful community with the best data set, they should earn the most. So we want to provide ability for people who have expertise, who have like knowledge in area, to drive to get revenue, to monetize the data, to monetize the knowledge, but also to redesign the whole search logic. Because right now all search logics that we have, it's ad driven, and like whatever we are looking for, we all the time getting the responses that are not in like the best from our perspective as a user, but the best for the Google or other service provider like platforms that are like navigating and linking these dots, like us, and like people or communities or service or agencies who can potentially provide some services for us.
When you talk about the meritocracy approach, I really like that idea. But I was thinking, as a user, let's say that I have highly specialized skill and I provide data, and I could provide the same data to different AI models. How would you disincentivize people to do it, or do you just think that that's not even a problem and that that's okay for each user to share their data with whoever they want? Because at the end of the day, I believe that there will be network effects, and you essentially want to be one of the biggest AI companies. So, how do you think that not just for you but other AI companies will try to deal with that problem?
Yeah, I see right now. I was listening one of the podcasts from Sam Altman, and he was also mentioning this, that there should be clear incentive for the user to feed the data to one model, and like and link this person to this model to create long-term incentives, not a short-term, because with short-term that already exists. Like we have tons of data laborers, we have billion-dollar company evaluated, like unicorns, who are effectively doing one-time reward for the work that you perform, either label data or either feeded data or whatever. And it already works, but if we think how to shift this paradigm, it's like I see personally this as a kind of a new gig economy, data gig economy narrative that we are pushing. And what we create, and we're given a long-term incentives to choose one model and keep contributing data there. And then you would be locked in, same as a Facebook or Instagram. You're not switching to other platforms, not because they are worse, but like you already have thousands or maybe hundreds of photos with comments, with likes, with some friends there on a platform, and it's like very painfully to switch to another platform. I think we're gonna have very similar effect, but not linked to us as a sister, but linked to a specific model and communities that you choose. So you can effectively choose whenever community you wish, whenever like whatever model you wish. But as soon as you start contributing the value that you already contributed, and also the values that you can extract from there, it's become a revenue stream for you, and it's like kind of a small business for this community. And if you're earning, I don't know, $100 or maybe $500 per month just by being a part of that community that feed in this data set for this model and keep it up to date all the time, have incentives, have earning money and so on, it's a huge incentive for most of the world, like Ukraine, Afghanistan, like so many countries in the world where people actually earning $100 per month, not per, like not per, like for them it's going to be huge money. And if we can effectively create this market and attract really smart people who own the data to contribute this data to different use cases, that would be like ideal scenario. And it would be also defensibility on our side with a network effect, with critical amount of people who would be building this, and also in terms of quality and accuracy of this model. So we need to achieve as fast as possible a critical level of accuracy compared to biggest player in the space. And based on our experiments, I think it's like very realistic approach, like a goal, because with Web3 models that we already have right now, we overperform any big player in the space because like they just don't have access to this data while we have. It is this data exists on the internet, but they effectively cannot get and parse everything. It's like it's very time consuming, it's very expensive, and they also cannot validate the accuracy like and remove the hallucination because it's like it's still quite complicated. So yeah, like a lot of things, but I think with this approach that you're giving people very clear incentive to keep contributing and keep feeding the data to one model because it's become your revenue stream and a business, it's the way how we imagine it, but on a community level. So each community would have a lot of incentives to do it.
And you mentioned critical level of accuracy. I believe that you're a lot more accurate, or that's what you said, than centralized models. But what's the percentage that you'll be satisfied? And also, how long do you think it'll take you to get there? But essentially, where this question is leading is how long do you think it will take for small language models to become ubiquitous and for everyone to use them and for them to no longer be something that you can use, but the fact that one, if you don't use them, then you'll be lagging behind, so they'll become a necessity. What's your time frame?
Yeah, I think we're gonna have a huge exposure into use cases over the next 3 6 months. So I expect that we're gonna have tens of thousands of models created on a platform. As soon as we're gonna have this, then the question would be into scoring, effective scoring of this model, benchmarking these models, and effectively comparison with any existing on the market, any models exist which exist on the market. And then there would be also a question how to do a cross management of these models in a way that if the user asking something very complicated which requires like three models to work collectively, collaborate collectively to solve this issue or provide the response, or maybe five models, 10 models, how to effectively manage this collaboration between these models. So I think we would see it over the time, but I don't think that we would be able to overcompete in all the direction, in all the tasks. And finding the task and verticals and niches that we would be the best, it's our basically goal of the next stage. Like finding product market fit, it's something that is crucial for any startup. And as we're building a product, not not a token driven stuff, but like a product driven stuff, I think that's would be a focus of our team.
Yeah, that's really interesting. And on the product market fit, some might argue that you would essentially need to have an idea of where you can fit, or just have a very clear idea of what's the problem that you're trying to solve before you even start building your product. While your approach is a bit different, that reminds me of like the Silicon Valley approach, where you launch it as soon as you can and then you try to amend and adjust. Why did you decide to come up with that approach to actually launch as soon as you can and try to find a fit rather than just keep building until you build this perfect product?
Yeah, you see, because we started with building perfect product, we know that several use case that we already have and which our team already developed, it's like highly competitive, highly like very high quality products that can be sell on the market. But with this product, we can achieve maybe 1 million revenue in next year, which is okay as a business, but it's not a moonshot. It's not like a big enough scale game. So what we're trying to achieve right now and working on is basically to give instruments like really well designed tools and instruments and a platform for many people to run experiments in parallel. So we will empower, I don't know, thousands of communities and groups of people to create their own use cases, basically to create these small products. And you can think about it as an app store, like approach. You have probably hundreds of thousands or maybe even more than million application on a platform, and each of these application run by a group of people, and they have a lot of incentive to make it successful. They thinking about monetization, distribution, they thinking how to promote, they thinking how to attract more like power users, a lot of things. And with power of this group of users, we can achieve much bigger results, we can achieve much better results. And that's basically our approach right now. So we're saying like, hey, we're going to be a new app store, but for models, but for data sets. If you want to monetize your data, if you want to monetize some different use cases, your expertise, experience, just go and be the first who would build there. And if you would be first, you will definitely find a lot of opportunity to take the best position on the platform, to take the best position on the market. And basically I believe that it's more efficient ways, and I would be focusing on adding one use case in a row, in a line, because in that way we would have limits in terms of the team, and I would need to hire like thousands of people to work on a different use cases. While with a new approach, our role is to provide instruments for each use case which actually makes sense and where we see a lot of demand from community. And as soon as there would be like really successful use cases, we would cut off or like not prioritize not profitable, not interesting use cases, while the most effort, most support we will give to this community who are building something meaningful.
Yeah, I think we spend a lot of time talking about the data providers and the communities and how we're going to build a community. Could you just explain to me the demand side on this? Who will be using these services and how do they plug into it? Are you relying on like businesses to utilize the small data models? And like, what's the business model behind it? And then are you going to charge them and then distribute the funds across the community, or how would that work?
Yeah, so in this direction, we have several things that we are doing and experimenting right now. So it's like first, it's very clear, end user, like retail user or B2C user, they can query any model based on their interest, based on what they're trying to solve. And that's where we're going to be charged basically tokens. It can be stables, it can be tokens, it doesn't matter. It would be same results. So each model going to have a model treasury, and this treasury would be effectively collect money from the users who are using querying your model onto the model side. Then there would be algorithm how this money would be spread between community, between platform, and between everyone who contribute the data and validate the quality of this data. Then effectively each community would have a group of people, kind of a power users or like the most active contributors or whatever. These people would have ability to govern this model and to propose additional ideas of how they want to monetize it. Because if they're experts, let's say, into some financial markets, and that's like highly specialized model on financial markets, on crypto or like some derivatives or like whatever, these people effectively can go to some B2B clients in this space and say like, hey, we already have the best model in the space, we have the best community who contribute a lot of data there, and the accuracy of this model is highly good. Like, do you want to integrate this model to your business? Do you want to use it for your like third party solutions? And these companies, they most likely will say yes, and that's where we see API based integration, where they can buy effectively a lot of a lot of uh, a lot of queries, but by packs. Like they can pay, I don't know, $1,000 per month, or maybe tens of $1,000 per month, and rely on this model data set. And effectively, they also can request additional data sets. They can say like, hey, whatever you're doing is like amazing, like we like everything, but we still see a gap in this knowledge, or we see the gap in this documentation, or gap in this data. Like, can you incentivize your community to feed this data additionally? Can you incentivize maybe some businesses to do it? So that's where we see a lot, and like that's why community element is critical here, because community of experts, they would be defining, is it model would be a really successful business, or it would be just like funny use case. And like both are okay. Like for both scenarios, it's also good. Like if there is some person who wants to create some digital twin, or maybe some newsletter, or some like any funny use case, it's also good, because we can discover by the end of the day that for this use case there is also demand, and there is someone who is ready to chat, to interact, to contribute there, and so on. So I'm trying to be more agnostic about use cases at this point of time, because if we become too deeply focused on a specific use case and monetization of this use case, we can cut off very interesting things that can boom at some point of time.
Yeah, that's very good. I think that's the best approach. You provide the infrastructure and you enable people to build on top of it, and then it's dictated by demand, and only the ideas that generate high enough demand will succeed. And that's the ultimate idea of meritocracy. And I really like that. Just my final question is about the roadmap, because now you've pushed the launch of the mainnet to Q2, and you initially had integration with Monad. Oh yeah, sorry, Q4. Yeah, from Q2 to Q4. Thanks for the correction. And you initially had the integration with Monad in Q4. So how does that change? Could you just tell me what you're aiming to achieve by the end of this year, but also by the end of next year? If you could summarize it in a very quick fashion.
In terms of our roadmap, for Q4, our biggest goal is basically release AI Lab, because with AI Lab, we're going to introduce functionality for anyone to launch their own use cases, own small language models, to allow other people to contribute data, to collect this data set and run it effectively, and also to monetize it and earn rewards if you contribute in data. It depends on which side of the platform you're going to be operating in. Also, we have a lot of plans with the token, effectively mainnet, effectively staking, effectively validators, representation, rewards distribution, and many other things. We're gonna start and launch with Solana, so it's like that's basically our go-to-market strategy. We believe that so far for today, Solana community is the most active, most curious about new projects. They are open to educate themselves, they open to do a lot of things, and we really appreciate it. At the same time, we understand that there's a lot of interesting people, experience with a lot of knowledge, with a lot of expertise in different zones, who are a part of EVM chains community. So that's why for us it would be very critical to add support for EVM chains. That's where we see a Monad as one of effective solution for do this. I'm not sure where we end up early 25, because we need to. I know that Monad guys, they are actively working right now on their dev testnet, and like there's a lot of things need to be done on their side. We gonna be thinking about it from the position of like where is the high quality, like what blockchain can actually provide us the solution for getting and supporting EVM chain communities. Like what would be the most efficient, the most affordable, the best solution, like to support our product needs. And that's where we see a Monad as one of the top possible solution for ourselves.
Thank you so much for that. It was a pleasure having you on a podcast and learning more about your project. We should definitely catch up and have another one later on, later next year, after you launch the token and everything, and integrate on a few blockchains. That would be super interesting.
Would be happy to share our progress and hope to see you soon. Thanks for inviting and thanks.